She thought she was the third member, only to find out she was considered the hired help. Let's talk about it. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you like hearing stories from the 90s, subscribe. Let's get into it. Salt N Pepa burst on the scene when rap was very much a male-dominated environment. At a time when much of the genre was underground, Salt N Pepa were propelled into the mainstream and enjoyed international success. It all began with two college friends. They went to school together and worked together long before they found fame. They built a friendship and a working relationship that would last decades and even a lifetime. Through the ups and downs, two things remained constant: friendship and sisterhood. The first female hip-hop group to reach gold and platinum success, and apparently the Brat was the first female solo artist in hip-hop to reach platinum. Cheryl Salt James was born in Brooklyn in 1966. She is one of three siblings. She attended Grover Cleveland High School and eventually enrolled at Queensborough Community College, where she studied nursing. It was here she met Sandra Denton, aka Peppa. Sandra is from Queens and she was born in Jamaica. Not that Jamaica, the country Jamaica. She was born in Kingston and she's the youngest of 8 siblings. According to biography.com, Sandra lived on a farm with her grandmother until she was 6. By this time, her parents had already moved to Queens, New York, to pursue a better life with some of her siblings. After 3 years, Sandra moved to Queens to join the rest of her family. She graduated high school and also attended the Queensborough Community College to study nursing. But apparently, neither Cheryl nor Sandra were focused on their studies. We were big-time screw-ups. We never went to class. We'd just hang around in the lunchroom playing cards and formed this amazing friendship. Because we were polar opposites, we fascinated each other. Before they worked together in the group, they were co-workers in Sears. Now this must have been a really fun place to work because Martin Lawrence and Kid and Play also worked there. What were the chances of all of these guys working in Sears becoming famous? Apparently working together was one big laugh. Until this day, they're all very close. Laughter was contagious when we were together. We always made each other laugh. So Cheryl's boyfriend at the time, Herbie, also worked in Sears, and he was studying music and always experimenting with beats. He was actually thinking of forming a group, so he asked the girls if they could rap, and he wanted them to record some songs with him for some projects he was working on for school. Sandra told Rolling Stone how it all began. I remember him asking me, "Can you rhyme?" at work. At Sears, his desk wasn't too far from mine, his cubby hole. I've never rapped in front of a crowd, ever in my life. I grew up with park jams. That's how I knew about rap. So he asked her if she could rap, and she was like, yeah. And she kept it very simple, with lyrics such as, "I am Sandy D from coast to coast." She said as far as she was concerned, it was an audition. I just had my little raps that I used to write, but I was nervous. I was scared. I always wanted to, but I never did. Cheryl and Sandra recorded their first track in 1985, and at this time, rap was all about battles. You either shouted out other artists or singers or dissed them. As they were women, they especially felt that they had to come hard with the lyrics. The song Showstopper, It's Stupid Fresh, took on Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. That was the best way for us as female rappers to get noticed, which was crazy for us to do because Doug and Slick Rick were the biggest thing ever, and the show was the biggest song ever. It was very ballsy for two women that nobody knew to do something like that. So the first single was a rough cut, so they had to record it again professionally at Power Play Studios. Herbie took the song to WBLS and asked DJ Marley Marl to play it, and he promised to do so. Apparently hip-hop was only played on the weekends back then, so they waited and listened out for it. And he stuck to his promise and played the song. When they heard the song, they went nuts. Pep, being the crazy person that she is, she stopped the car in the middle of the boulevard. She jumped out of the car and she started screaming, "They're playing my song, that's me on the radio." And I'm like, get back in the car. After this, they were in demand locally and started to go around performing. As they had declared battle with Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, they eagerly awaited their response. They actually all bumped into each other at a club, and they were totally cool. One time we saw them at a club, and they were just really nice to us. Sandra said, "I remember Dougie Fresh telling me that Slick Rick was gonna get us, but Doug Fresh said, let him live." So Cheryl was just 20 and Sandra was 19, and their lives basically changed forever. We were going to school, we were working at Sears. After school, on the weekends, we were doing shows in Manhattan. Making money wasn't the goal, nor was the goal being extremely famous. The goal was to entertain, to make good music, and to have a good time. So music was just a side hustle for them at first, and they initially called themselves Supernature. But one day they were rapping one of their songs, and the lyrics were, "We go together like salt and pepper." And instantly they knew that the name Salt N Pepa was perfect. At this time, while they were still Supernature, they had actually found their first Spinderella, LaToya Hanson. She's who we see on the group's first album cover. Her name was obviously inspired by the Disney character. When she was a kid, she was a huge fan of the story, like most of us were. She said she got the nickname when she was spinning records in her local park while wearing a Cinderella watch. As well as working with Salt N Pepa, LaToya has also worked with MC Lyte and the original Roxanne, and she is known for encouraging women to get into DJing and to become artists. In an interview with The Nam Show, LaToya explained that it was an up-and-coming rap group called the Treacherous Three who helped introduce her to the business. They introduced her to Herbie, and this was around the time Salt N Pepa's first song, Showstopper, came out. When she was hanging out with the Treacherous Three, she used to hang out with them in the studio and they actually wanted her to sing, but she ended up getting introduced to Salt N Pepa. She auditioned for them, DJ'd and everything, and they loved her. She called it her first introduction as a DJ. She went from that to going platinum. She said, quote, "I was the first one to lay the ground for females, where people were like, oh wow, a female is really doing it." She said, "I'm here, the original Spinderella from Salt N Pepa, that's me." Salt N Pepa and the original Spinderella actually struggled to get signed at first because hip-hop was considered a man's world. But they got the attention of indie label Next Plateau, and this is what they were offered. $5,000 for the single, I'll Take Your Man, and $9,000 for an album. The song Push It was recorded at Herbie's friend's house, Fresh Gordon. It was actually recorded in his bathroom because it had good acoustics. They said at first they thought the song was kind of corny and they were embarrassed by some of the lyrics. They just didn't get the song. And Push It was actually the B-side to the song Tramp, which was the song that initially blew up. But a DJ in San Francisco flipped over the record and played the B-side of the track, and he loved it. And apparently the song was in high demand after that. It got a lot of airplay, and eventually it reached top 20 on Billboard. Push It won Salt N Pepa a Grammy nomination, and apparently the song was a huge favourite in maternity wards. In an interview with Vlad TV, Kid from Kid and Play said Salt N Pepa began to have problems with the original Spinderella.
Push It was Herbie experimenting, you know what I mean, with a really wacky kind of song that didn't really sound hip hop. It sounded really kind of clubby. She wasn't the first Spinderella, but they had problems with the first Spinderella.
What was the problem?
Man, I don't even remember, man. It just didn't click. If you watch the movie, they try to make it like, you know, like, I don't know, like Herbie was trying to push up on her or something like that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it didn't work.
He didn't specify what those problems were, but apparently there were some tensions. But we know that that biopic wasn't very accurate when it comes to the Spinderellas. So who knows? More on that later. So after they parted way with the original Spinderella, they had to find a replacement. They approached Wendy Williams, an up-and-coming radio DJ at the time. On her show, which has been wiped from YouTube, Wendy said, "I was 21 years old. I was DJing in Washington, DC. They came to town, and they came to the young girls' show on the station. Salt, Pepa, and Herbie talked about me. Herbie came to me after and said, me and the girls was talking, and we wanted to know if you wanted to be our DJ. Wendy declined their offer because she wanted to continue pursuing her dream of being a radio and TV personality. And she obviously made the right decision, especially in light of what ended up happening with Spinderella. And with Wendy's strong personality, I'm sure at some point they would have clashed. So Deirdre Roper ended up becoming the new Spinderella. She was just 15 or 16 when she auditioned for them, and they were impressed. I take it it's the group who owned the name Spinderella, because the original Spinderella never used the name again, except to refer to herself as the original Spinderella, but she just goes by her real name. Deirdre was introduced to Herbie in 1986, when Salt N Pepa were at the Westchester Music Festival. As she was so young, her parents had to give permission for her to travel on the road. I think one of them should have accompanied her, but that's just my opinion. They used their platform to touch upon important topics of the time, such as the HIV epidemic of the 80s and early 90s. That was a time when no one really was sure how you contracted it, so we used our platform to create discussion and dialogue. Cheryl said, "We came along at a time when female rappers weren't really having that much commercial success, and we brought fun, fashion, and femininity to hip-hop. We also came out hitting the heart of a female audience and speaking their truth and stepping out and being as bold as we were with the things that we had to say, the way that we dressed, being successful in such a male-orientated genre, such a misogynistic genre. I think that women were really hungry for a voice." Salt N Pepa had several platinum and gold selling singles, and Spinderella produced a few of the songs on the albums. I believe it was for the song What a Man, where she made her rapping debut. If she has rapped on any other songs, let me know down below. What a Man starred Tupac Shakur, but they had to obscure his face because at the time he was a very controversial person and he had his infamous court case going on. I only found out like a few years ago that it was Tupac in the video. Spinderella said in various interviews that Tupac was absolutely furious when he found out that they refused to show his face. So Salt N Pepa didn't release another official album after 2002, but they continued to tour together. So the group had been going strong for 37 years. Fans were excited to see two iconic groups, Salt N Pepa and SWV, embark upon a reality show. Plus, Salt N Pepa ended up landing a Vegas residency. This was quite an accomplishment as they were the first hip-hop group to get a residency in Vegas. They were also touring all over the country at that time and even had a tour of Australia. They did cancel some shows though and said they would resume their tour in 2019. On their reality show, we saw that there were a lot of issues between Salt N Pepa and Spinderella. It was kind of hard at first because it was like 2 against 1, but the other members of SWV really supported Spinderella, especially Taj.
I personally don't think Spin is treated like an equal partner in Salt N Pepa.
Spinderella wanted recognition as a third member, and she didn't want to be excluded from things like various interviews and shows. According to Salt N Pepa, some of these engagements only required the two of them and never asked for Spinderella as well. They wouldn't even leave a chair out for her.
We're a 3-member group, right? They didn't have a seat set for me during the actual conversation part.
Spinderella also didn't like the fact that her name wasn't represented within the group's name. And of course, Salt N Pepa thought this was ridiculous because they were Salt N Pepa before she came along. And also, Salt N Pepa flows better than Salt N Pepa and Spinderella, for example. And it was obvious that Spinderella didn't feel very secure in the group. For the Vegas Residency, for example, it seemed that she felt threatened by the resident DJ. Now, from what I remember, Spinderella was considered the eye candy of the group, and apparently the group really propelled in popularity with her in it.
My name is not in the group, so there's the first misconception.
Because we were Salt N Pepa when we met you, right?
Right, then I came on board and things flourished.
Things been flourishing.
Even though her name isn't included within the name itself of the group, there's no way fans can imagine Salt N Pepa without Spinderella. But unfortunately, after 32 years of being in the group, Spinderella was fired. It wouldn't have been much of a surprise to those who watched the reality show, but the fact that it was so final was a surprise. On Instagram, Spinderella wrote, "I'm deeply saddened to share with all of the Salt N Pepa and Spinderella fans that I will not be performing on the New Kids on the Block mixtape tour. Despite my participation in promoting the tour and being highly publicised as one of the acts, in January 2019, I received a termination email from Salt N Pepa, excluding me from performances with the group. It was my expectation, after making that decision, that they would also take the responsibility for sharing the news with the public and other affected parties. It has been months now with no mention. Out of love for my fans and a commitment to upholding a standard of professionalism, I've taken it upon myself to let everyone know I refuse to participate in misleading fans, ticket holders and others who, based on all the advertising, were anticipating seeing the iconic Salt N Pepa and Spinderella trio. So, I'm making it clear now. Please know, you will have the opportunity to see me this summer in many other projects and activities I'll be participating in, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you, Spinderella. Now, I don't know what Spinderella's contract was with Salt N Pepa or with the record company, but it became apparent through just observing the situation unfold that she was considered more of an employee than a third member of the group.
Today is a business meeting, and that's why Spinderella is not here. When it comes to the business side of S&P, Salt N Pepa is in charge.
I don't think the money was split 3 ways either. In an interview with The Real, Salt said that to her and Pepa's credit, they actually took money out of their pocket to make sure that Spinderella was adequately compensated. Spinderella wanted the group to be more like SWV. Each 3 members were just as important as the other, even though they had a lead singer. Shortly after her firing, Spinderella filed a lawsuit against the other 2, seeking back payment of royalties. She also claimed a breach of contract, misrepresentation, fraud, and unpaid royalties. She claimed that her contract entitled her to, quote, full 1/3 share of various sources of income and ancillary revenue. Spinderella had a real wake-up call. Towards the end of her time with the group, she decided that she had to create her own path and her own brand as Spinderella in her own right. And of course, performances were halted in 2020, but she even DJ'd remotely at the time. You can tell she was deeply hurt by the situation. She had known them for over 30 years. Spinderella also gave her thoughts on the Salt N Pepa biopic and said that it was them trying to erase history. Her story wasn't included in the biopic, and she barely got a mention. The fans weren't here for it either. It was hard to take the movie seriously, knowing that they cut out a big chunk of the story, that pertaining to Spinderella. Sorry, but I've got to speak on this Lifetime special. Too often, black women who have made meaningful contributions to their industry are left out of historic narratives. Back when Salt N Pepa was building our legacy, which is rooted in empowering women, I could not have dreamed that this same group would one day disempower me. Words cannot fully express my disappointment when I learned a decision was made to move forward with a Lifetime biopic that wrongfully excluded me from every aspect of development and production, all the while using my image throughout. Given that I played an integral role in the group's story and success, there's nothing more unacceptable than a woman being silenced by another woman. It is for this reason I will not be supporting it. I do, however, want to offer a huge congratulations to the talented actresses that represented us, including Monique Paul, who I wish would have been given an opportunity to share my true perspective with. In reflection, I'm grateful I've managed to uphold a 30-year career of truly empowering women with my gift. Against all odds, this will continue in my work and in my service. And Salt said that they did actually reach out to Spinderella and that their hearts will always be open to her, or something to that effect. And Salt said, perception is not reality. So they said that the biopic was mainly supposed to focus on their friendship, meaning Salt N Pepa. I'm sure they have love for her, but it does seem like it was them and her. She couldn't penetrate that unit that they have. I can understand why Spinderella felt left out, and at times probably felt like the third wheel. It's a lesson to be clear on where you stand from a business perspective from day one. The court case is believed to have been settled through mediation.
That's a settlement. A settlement was done for the majority of that, but there's still things like these Lifetime Achievement Awards that I should be a part of.
And as of last year, Salt's net worth is reported to be 14 million, Pepa 15 million, and Spinderella's 10 million. So they seem to be doing okay. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below, you know I read the comments. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. And don't forget to click the bell for more.